Hello guys, today I'm here to make what I hope is going to be an interesting and informative video. So it's 5 things that I hate about Kazakhstan. Now last week I made a video, in fact 2 videos, one in English, one in Russian, about 5 things that I love about Kazakhstan. So if you haven't checked those videos out, make sure you do. I just want to say something before I start. Yeah, I'm going to talk about 5 things that I hate about Kazakhstan, but it doesn't mean I don't like living in Kazakhstan. I've lived here since 2011. It's a long time. There's always, good things and bad things about any country, and these are 5 things that I've, you know, highlighted about this particular country, Kazakhstan. So if you are from Kazakhstan, don't be offended, because I can assure you there are plenty of negative things that could be said about the country that I'm from, the UK, especially at this moment in time, with all nonsense going on over there. So I'm actually grateful that I am in Kazakhstan. Anyway, so the first thing that I hate about Kazakhstan, it's actually in 2 parts, is the currency, which is the Kazakh tenge. So I'll start with the minor reason what I don't like about the tenge. It's that when you're paying for something in a shop by cash, there is usually a problem with change. So let's say something costs, I don't know, 300 tenge, and you give in a 2000 tenge note. It's usually going to cause problems. They'll ask you for the exact change. The amount of times that I got into a shop to buy something and I've had to put it back because the cashier didn't have the change to give me. Yeah, it's happened a lot of times. It's happened a lot of times where I've had to go into a shop, put the item back because they couldn't give me the change from the money that I'd given them. And it's not like I'm talking about giving them huge amounts of, huge note. It's usually small things, and it's a problem in Kazakhstan. It's a big problem with change. What's helped the situation though is something called Kaspi Gold. It's a bank called Kaspi. They have a card called Kaspi Gold. So more and more shops now accept Kaspi Gold, even if they haven't got the, I don't know what it's called in English, in Russian, terminal, like the card reader thing. You can transfer the money on the mobile phone app into their bank account. So that's definitely helped the situation. But not everyone has that. Not all the shops have it. So yeah, that's the first problem. And the second thing, which is a much bigger problem, because that was more of an annoyance, but this thing I'm going to talk about now, this is much more than an annoyance. This is really bad to make a living, and that is the state of the Kazakh tenge. It's just a very weak currency, very weak currency against the dollar and other major currencies. So as an example, when I first came to Kazakhstan in 2011, $1 was the equivalent of 150 tenge. There was then maybe a year later or so, I can't remember, there was a devaluation of the currency. It suddenly dropped to 180 tenge to $1. A few years later, there was another devaluation, a much bigger devaluation. It went into like 360 or something. There was another devaluation not long ago before the coronavirus thing. It went to like 400 and something, 450 tenge to $1 or something like that. I think the dollar's currently got a problem, so the tenge's got a little bit stronger. I think it's something like 400 tenge to $1 now. But even that, look, 400 tenge to $1 compared to 150 tenge to $1 when I first came here. It's not good if you earn money in tenge. If you're a tourist that comes here, or you live here and you're earning money in dollars or something, you know, got like a Western salary, you'll be laughing because it's an incredibly cheap country for people like in that situation. But for people that like myself who earns money in the local currency, it's a nightmare when you want to go abroad because just everything is just so expensive. Um, so yeah, it's really not good. The Kazakh tenge has a big problem. Okay, the second thing that I hate about Kazakhstan is, hate's a strong word. Not, I wouldn't say I hate it. I'm just not a big lover of it, and that's the food. So if you're not from the Central Asian region, um, there's a good chance you won't know about, or you won't know much about the food of this region in Kazakhstan and the surrounding Central Asian countries. I don't know how to describe it really. It's very, very meaty, no question about that. You know, meat is a staple part of the diet here. Um, very fatty, so they like to eat the actual animal fat as well. Um, I'd say the food's quite bland. It's not very spicy. So often, you know, Asian food is usually associated with spice. Not here, it's not. That's for sure. Um, yeah, I just feel it's lacking in flavors and spices, to be honest. So I'll go through some of the dishes that are popular in Kazakhstan and Central Asia as a whole. Because normally when you talk about this, the food from this region, it's not just individual to each country. You know, kind of if you go to Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, the food's actually generally very similar, but some kind of maybe regional variations of it. So the national dish of Kazakhstan, which Kazakhs are very proud of, is something called beshmamak. Best way to describe it, it's kind of like sheets of pasta, almost kind of like lasagna style pasta, boiled pasta with boiled horse meat on top, with maybe some onions and carrots maybe. Um, it's all right. I don't mind it sometimes. It's quite fatty. I just don't know. I don't really see what the fuss is about it, to be honest. I was with potatoes as well sometimes. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not in love with it, but I can eat it occasionally. You often get it at weddings. What else? Something called manti. So that's like usually meat-filled dumplings. Usually served. It's usually with minced meat in the middle. Not always. It could be other types of meat inside. Can be all right, but usually quite fatty as well. Shashlik is another popular dish here. So it's like meat on skewers, but it's always one piece of meat, a piece of fat, a piece of meat, piece of fat. It's not like the kind of Turkish kebab that usually comes with rice and salad. It's literally just skewers of meat, usually with raw onions, some red pepper, and you normally kind of mix it in with vinegar. So it is very meat heavy, very fatty. The one dish I do like, which is I guess traditionally from Uzbekistan, and usually Uzbeks make it the best, is something called plov. Similar to kind of biryani in India, I suppose. So yeah, a rice dish cooked in animal meat, cooked for animal fat, I guess. It's cooked in. Um, that is actually really good, but it does depend on how it's cooked. It's actually quite a difficult dish to kind of perfect. If it's cooked with beef, then I can eat it. If it's with lamb, I don't like lamb and I can't eat it. And even then, it has to be cooked a certain way with certain ingredients to make it really tasty. There's certain places here in Shymkent where I live certain cafe restaurants that do really good plov. But generally, I'm not a fan of Kazakh food. It's too bland, too meaty, too fatty. Not really my cup of tea, to be honest with you. Um, so number three, I'm going to come back to that one. I think I'm going to leave that one till the end because that's the one I kind of feel probably strongest about. So lack of culture. I'm going to go for number three. Just read this. Lack of culture. I think particularly where I live in Shymkent, well, certainly probably more than in Almaty and Nur Sultan, which are the kind of two main cities. I guess people there that live there maybe travelled a bit more cultured. So when I say lack of culture, I'm not talking about the Kazakh culture. Here they are very much into their culture in that sense, traditional people, but I mean just their behaviour. So for example, spitting is a big problem here in Shymkent, particularly with men. They just go around spitting as if it's just normal. In other countries, yeah, people spit, but it's frowned upon. It's not the done thing to do. And when I think back to like living in the UK, the sort of people that spit are, more kind of uneducated, not so well-to-do people, should we say. But here, anyone can spit, really. Doesn't really matter what your background is, your profession. It's just a normal thing to do here, even though it's disgusting, especially during this current coronavirus pandemic as well. I don't know what it is. It's like just a lack of education, maybe. I don't know, but it's just something that people here do, particularly men. I know a lot of people that spit. Yeah, but I don't know. What do you do? Do you tell them not to? I don't know, but that's just how they were brought. That's how they were brought up, and hopefully one day they'll realise it's not a good thing to do. Another thing on that note of lack of culture, the way people queue here in shops and in maybe hospitals and places like that, not great. It's not like in the UK, for example, where people actually are very good at queuing. Here it's just chaotic. People all over the place. The amount of times I've been in a queue, people have started arguing. I hate queuing here because people try to push in. You don't really queue in a line here as such. You kind of have to ask, when you arrive, you have to ask the person who's last in the queue, and you say, okay, I'm going to be behind you, but you can kind of stand anywhere. Now that you know who you're behind, but then it goes wrong somewhere along the chain, and it's so stressful. They just make it so hard for themselves. I don't know why they can't just stand in a normal line. The last thing regarding the lack of culture, it's the driving here. So I got a car, I drive here, I've braved it, and I actually don't think it's too bad, to be honest. I'm used to it now. I'm not a particularly patient driver myself, so I kind of fit in quite well here, because the drivers are very impatient here, beeping all the time, beep 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 beep. So if you're at the red light and you're the first car, and if you don't drive off as soon as the light turns green, or even just before it turns green, cars will start beeping you from behind. And they're quite inconsiderate, a lot of the drivers. So like you could be driving along and someone could just be stuck, just stop their car in the middle of the road. I mean, and you have to kind of go round them. They don't really think about you. Or the amount of times I've come out of a particular shop or somewhere, gone back to my car, and I can't get out because there's some car blocking me. He's parked up, even though he's blocking me, and then you have to hope the driver comes back soon, or knock on the car, hope his alarm goes off and that he notices. It's a joke, it really is. Just, I don't know, a lack of, what's the word? They're just not very considerate, a lot of people here. And I just think driving shows a good example of that. The next thing I want to talk about is it's just the geography of the country. It's not a criticism of anyone at all. It's just the way the country is. So it's a massive country, ninth largest country in the world in terms of land, but a very small population, only 18, I think about 18 million people. And the problem for me, that I find quite annoying, is that everything is so far from each other. So when you're from Europe, particularly Western Europe, you know, you could easily just drive from one city to another and then to another. Whereas here, there was no big cities anywhere near Shymkent within Kazakhstan. Our nearest big city is Tashkent, the capital of Uzbekistan, which is 120 kilometers away. But if you want to drive somewhere within Kazakhstan, the nearest big city is Almaty, which is 700 kilometers away. It takes all day to get there if you're going by car. It's only an hour by plane. Yeah, it's just the distances involved, you know. So like if I want to have a day out, like a day out, yeah, I can drive to some small village or small town or something in the area, but it's not a great deal there. I mean, Shymkent is good for like mountains and outdoor stuff. So I'm not knocking that, but I'm just talking about, don't know, just I like visiting different towns and cities, but it's just not something that I can do very easily here in Shymkent. As I say, everything is just so far away from each other. Yeah, which is a little bit disappointing. So I'd like to take day trips to different towns and stuff. I tried doing it to the small towns and stuff in the area, like Aris and Sarıgaş, but it's just not really worth it. There's just nothing there. They're just glorified villages, really. And the last thing I want to talk about, this is the thing that really gets me, really annoys me, and I definitely hate this. It's people in Kazakhstan are, I guess the best way of saying it, are afraid of the cold. So here in Shymkent, which is part of South Kazakhstan, is the hottest part of the country. You know, it's normally 40 degrees every day from June, you know, July, August, even September. May was hot as well. We're in June now, so it's boiling hot. Today was actually a little bit cooler, but yeah, normally you're looking at about 40 degrees. And you would have thought that people would be kind of well prepared for it, as it's always like this every year. And, you know, people would, well, I'll talk about it. Well, you know, people would use air conditioning a lot, but people are afraid of air conditioning. Not everyone, but you'll see what I mean when I explain it. So for example, I've got an air conditioner here in my apartment, which is on. And that's quite a rarity. Not necessarily having the air conditioner. Quite a few apartments here do have air conditioning, but people wouldn't really use it at night. And there's no air conditioning in our bedroom. We're only renting, so we can't install one. I don't think, I've never known a Kazakh person that sleeps with air conditioning on. People here are just afraid of it. They think they're going to get ill from the air conditioner. They would rather sit in a boiling hot apartment or a boiling hot car than turn the air conditioning on or install an air conditioner. It's really, really annoying. Sometimes I go to whatever, I don't know, if you get a taxi, for example, chances are it won't be air conditioned. Or if it is air conditioned, the driver won't have it on. I don't know why. That's happened to me before. You could go into shops. They haven't got air conditioning, a lot of them. Some have. I've had experiences when I've been teaching English in my language school, all of our classrooms are now air conditioned. Yeah, and I've had times when students have said, "Excuse me, can you turn the air conditioning off, please? It's blowing on me." It's like, okay. At the beginning, I did used to turn it off, but I was really hot and I couldn't teach you it. So I just when it started to continuously happen, I just said, "No, I'm sorry, I can't turn it off. It's just too hot. If you don't want to, if you don't like the air conditioning, you're gonna have to sit somewhere else, sit as far away from it then as possible." And that's what they did. They sit there like this, so it's freezing cold, but it's not. It's not freezing cold. The air conditioner helps. It's ridiculous. Or, obviously my car has air conditioning. I wouldn't have bought a car that wouldn't have air conditioning when you're dealing with 40-degree heat every summer. A lot of the cars in Shymkent are very old, very, very old. They don't have air conditioning. I don't know why you drive one of them. There are lots of cars that do have air conditioning, but they don't even use them. Because as I'm driving my car, I have a look. People have their windows open in these luxury cars. It's like, it's 40 degrees, mate. Why don't you put the bloody aircon on? Yeah, it's just like a mentality thing here. I don't know. It's just people think they're going to get ill, catch a cold, which you can do. It is possible, but as long as you're not sitting right under the air conditioner, you're going to be fine. So sticking to that topic, I know I was waffling on a bit there. Yeah, it's like I wrote down here draft. So people are afraid of like any wind blowing on them. I remember once, it's boiling hot. This was quite a few years ago. I was going on one of these day trips I was mentioning earlier. I went to Aris, which is a town not far from Shymkent. Boiling hot on the bus. Some kid had the window at the back of the bus wide open because obviously no aircon on the bus. And the window had to be open. It was so hot. But then as we were driving, there's a woman sitting a bit further in front, and she said, "Oh, close the window. It's blowing on me." So you have to close. So this kid had to close the window, and I'm left there absolutely sweating and boiling because a bit of wind was blowing on the woman. And that's what they're like here. That's just an example, but people do not like it when wind is blowing on them or any kind of air. Again, they think they're going to get ill, catch a cold. And I think another thing, which again really annoys me, it's cold drinks. This isn't a Kazakhstan thing. This is like, I guess it's a whole kind of former Soviet thing. People are afraid to drink drinks or chilled drinks from the fridge. Not so much in summer, but in the winter, you will not find a shop that has you will not be able to buy, or you'll find it very difficult to buy a cold drink because the fridges are all turned off. The shops don't turn their fridges on in the winter. Not even just the winter, spring, autumn. So to get a cold drink, a chilled drink, the only way around it is to go to one of the big supermarkets. They usually have their fridges on. You can get one from there. It's absolutely crazy. So I have to. Well, I don't know what I do. I can't even. Well, I suppose I just drink Coca-Cola and stuff at room temperature, and it's just not the same. It even says on the bottle, even in Russian, to drink it chilled. But people don't want chilled drinks when it's not boiling hot. And even when it is hot, like now, it's still difficult to get cold drinks, believe it or not. Most shops now have fridges turned on, but only some of their fridges are turned on. Maybe they've got, I don't know, 4 or 5 fridges of drinks, and only one of them's turned on, and it's only got a certain range of drinks in there. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's so hard to get a cold drink here. It's because people think that by drinking a cold drink, you're going to get a sore throat. It's going to make you ill. I don't know where they get this information from. It's just passed down through generations. Their parents have told them, their grandparents have told them. But it's something that I'd never heard of when I lived in the UK. It was only until I came here that, people said, "Oh, don't drink a cold drink. You'll get ill. Give you a sore throat." It's absolute nonsense. Absolute, utter nonsense. It's just a myth. And yeah, I can't stand that. Just cannot stand it. I always want to drink cold, my drinks cold. Makes sense, unless I'm drinking a hot drink like a coffee or a tea or something. Anyway, I've been talking for 25 minutes. Almost done. There are two things here that I haven't mentioned that you might have expected me to mention. The first one is corruption. Corruption is a massive problem in Kazakhstan. The reason I didn't mention it as one of the 5 things that I hate is because I don't actually hate it. It's bad, but the amount of times paying a bribe to someone to actually come to my aid and help me, it's not something I hate. But what I would say, Kazakhstan can never fully develop and grow as a country until corruption is rooted out of society. But it's so deeply ingrained in society that it's not going away anytime soon. But like I say, it's not something that I hate from a personal point of view. It has its benefits. Second thing I wanted to mention, I don't know why I'm looking there, I haven't written anything down regarding this, is perhaps you might have expected me to talk about the government. Kazakhstan, I guess, isn't what you'd call a free country. It has restrictions. Officially, it's a democracy, but we all know in reality it's not a democracy. We all know who's going to win the elections and stuff. But is that something I hate? No. I don't actually care about it, to be honest. In fact, with what's going on in the UK and other Western countries, probably actually a good thing, having a, I don't know, being in a country where things are more restricted. I think it has its benefits, to be perfectly honest with you. So yeah, it's not something that I hate. It's a topic that I'm willing to talk about. I'm not afraid to talk about it. There are certain aspects, of the government and systems that I don't, and the system here that I don't like, but nothing that I can honestly say that I hate. So anyway, that is the end of this video. I plan to do the same thing again in a few days, but in the Russian language for my, Russian speaking viewers. So I'm almost at 100 subscribers now. I think I was 97 last time I checked. So let's now get me up to 100. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do, please, as there's going to be plenty more content coming your way soon. So thanks for watching. Take care.